Tony Chapman is here, the guru, the marketing guru of all the gurus, has joined us, host of Chatter That Matters. Hey, brother.
Always a pleasure, but tell your audience that I was knocking at your door, but didn't realize that I was supposed to press the doorbell to get
Yeah,
in.
like you literally walked up to the front door of this conversation and stood on the doormat and didn't push any
I go,
buttons or
why is
knock.
he not opening the door? Because I didn't knock on it. So, anyways, I'm glad we're connected and loving your show tonight.
Oh, thanks, bud. This is great stuff. The Chatter That Matters podcast. What's going on in there? Let's get that out.
Well, last week I had a Nobel Peace Prize, winner, the two-time president of the United States, brilliant, brilliant guy, called it "Give Peace a Chance." Just to show you the range of my show, and I really don't have a lane. This week I have a medium. And this medium is her name is Rima Burns McGowan. She is one of the most articulate guests I've ever had. PhD, was a member of Parliament in Ontario, and she was always found herself incredibly intuitive. When I was, doing her PhD and interviewing people, she knew the answer before they said it. And over time, she realized that her calling might be less about serving the public in politics, but connecting the people that have departed with the people that are still here. And it'll be interesting for you whether you believe it or not. To me, the reason I'm doing the show is to just have people listen with an open mind. But I can tell you, she makes some very compelling, I wouldn't even say arguments. She makes some very compelling statements why she believes irrevocably that we have a chance to talk to people that have left us.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
great. That's probably why you just stood at my door and didn't knock. You just figured
I just thought you're going to hear me.
I would just know you're there.
Oh, yeah.
This is great stuff. Okay, Chatter That Matters. Give the podcast a listen. Great range in that podcast, Tony. I've been surrounded by some incredibly successful people in the last few weeks, and I've seen a pattern I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay,
And
let's talk about it.
most of them don't think they're successful. And that's crazy to think that these people tell the same story. They tell about, I had a job and I had a career, and then I was presented with an opportunity. It was a little bit different. I took a risk and I knew I wanted to get to some place. And then I managed to get there. And then I'm like, okay, but you did it. And they're like, oh, not yet. And I'm like, yeah, but you did it. And they're like, oh, yeah, not yet. And so they actually see more when everyone around them sees how amazing they already are. And in particular, the Smart Speakers group, which was on earlier on and is on early on every Wednesday, these are two people that are like that. They have individually their own stories. They have so much in common, and yet they're so distinctly different of how they have created from when I was a kid, I would never have imagined this, and I knew I always wanted that. And yet here they are, and they've pulled it off, and yet they don't see it. And from the outside, I'm like, you guys are amazing. Do you know people like that?
It- And I have a theory. I know a lot of people like that. And it's the same insight in many ways that Dove saw when they saw young girls who were the happiest people in the world and suddenly got a few pimples in their face and became introverted because they couldn't chase what I called false beauty stereotypes. Those models on the magazine had been retouched. And Dove turned that into an entire campaign and all around self-esteem. In their case, I believe that people who chase three types of rewards on this planet. You chase intellectual rewards. I want to be with smart people. I want to be learning my entire life. Emotional rewards. I want to be around people that have my values that inspire me and I inspire them and we bring out the best in each other. And there's some people that just chase financial rewards. I know I'm going to arrive. I know what my number is. I'm going to retire when I get there. And I find they can never get anywhere because there's always somebody that's wealthier than they are, more successful than they are. And what I always say to them is, if you're going to get on that rat race, you're just going to continue to run it and you'll never be satisfied unless maybe you get to the top like in Elon Musk. Or are you better saying, what got you there? What did you learn? What inspired you? What changed your soul? How did you connect with humanity in a different way? What problem did you solve? How do you feel about that? And if you start focusing on emotional rewards and intellectual rewards, I promise you'll be happy at almost every step of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
But when you chase something that's materialistic or defined in a book as successful or not successful. How many employees do you have, Shane? What's your profit line? What kind of dividend? What kind of cottage? How many cars do you have? Where did you go on vacation? And you're chasing that world? That world is just a world of dead ends.
Hmm.
And I think every day, less and less gratification because it just doesn't give you my first car I won in a poker game. It was $200 and it had no
Really?
floor.
No
Yeah, it's a
way.
true story. It's
That's
Rick
great.
Hogshead if he's listening. Sorry, Rick, but you never ever when I can beat you on the top of the cards, you don't go for it. But anyways, I digress. But
That's a good
that
story.
car is the most amazing car, and I've owned a lot of great cars in my life, but that was my first car. Today, I'm much more interested in where that car can take you versus what that car is.
Very good. I told a story recently at an event, Tony, and it was the story of a vision board. And we talked an awful lot about vision boards. And of course, you know me, my words guy kind of thing, that I like people to assign words to a moment and live into those words. And if you get lost in a situation, you can always reset back to that very short phrase that gets you reset. And I told a story about vision boards and how powerful they can be if you build them out. Um, 10 years ago, my vision board at a development event was a G Wagon, a Rolex, and a park bench. That's it. That's the only thing I could put on it. I had no idea, right? And that speaks exactly to what you're talking about. 10 years later, and I've decided to openly share this stuff because I don't think I've done it before, but I think it matters today. Here's contrast for you. My vision board today is the statement, leave them better than you found them. That's the contrast of the difference. When people talk about comparing apples and oranges, I say it's more like apples and tires. But that's the difference of that, is that every single situation I get into is how can I help this person to leave them better than I found them in some way? Find some value to give to them, no matter what it is. And sometimes it's saying nothing. Sometimes it's just leave them alone. And yet here we are today, these incredibly successful people. Some of them see it and some of them don't see it. It's wild.
I was in Young Presidents Organization for many years, and the nucleus is a forum. These are your, 10 brothers and sisters that you can share anything with in a cone of silence. And it's very powerful because a lot of people at the top are very lonely. They don't have people to talk about their fears. And they did a session one time and they talked about, what drives you. And I was amazed going around the table how these successful people and what was their goals. And they came to me and they literally thought I was a flake. I said two words, be happy. I just want to be happy. I was on the board of my kid's school, a private school, a lot of money that was invested in that education. But all the board was excited about was where they were going afterwards, how many got into an Ivy League school in the States. And I said, all I see is spending a lot of money in the school, and yet my kids have to come home and work on homework till 11 o'clock at night. Why are we failing them? They're young girls. They're in their teenage years. They should be playing and watching TV and reading books and doing other things besides homework. Have we ever put a metric in there that has less to do about what school you're going to get into and how emotionally centered you are when you leave our school? And again, I got looked at saying, that's kind of like 60s flower power, but I think there's a lot to say about that hippie movement that really said, let's find that love and emotional connection. And what I see today in this world, especially what happened last week, where people are celebrating a father's death, is we've lost the heart and emotional side of humanity. We just seem to be obsessed with taking sides, attacking, using our keyboard as a trigger, it just makes me realize that maybe they need a little bit more Shane doing these vision boards with people and really focusing on honestly what matters because this is your one chance at life. This, as they say, life is not a dress rehearsal. And at the end of the life, you look back and said what you feel you're most proud of is the stuff you collected or the social media slingshots that you fired. I would question whether you're going to value your time on earth as time well spent.
Wow. I can tell you this, that the time best spent is talking to friends, and I always appreciate you. That's powerful stuff, Tony.
Always appreciate it. And next week you got to tell me how your last gig went because it sounded like, from what I heard from somebody that was in the room, which I'll tell you, I won't name names, but I'll tell you on the side, they were blown away by you, my friend. You did
Very
a
good.
great job.
Well, that's very kind. But yeah, I will tell you, but ring the doorbell first.
Okay. Have a good one.